When they walked downstairs with Lao Jiang, Sister Ing from the commissary opposite called me and beckoned me over. I limped up to her, and when she saw me like this, she whispered, "Hey, what's wrong with your feet?" I wasn't going to tell her anything. I just said, "It's just a twist in basketball, nothing." She seemed to be a little disappointed, but I suddenly felt that Sister Ing might know something. So I asked, "Sister Ing, how many years have you opened a store here?" She thought for a moment and said, "It's been a long time. It's been more than a decade." I continued to ask, "Then do you know how long this house has been built?" She was there when I opened the shop here, but the landlord at that time was not the Liang landlord. Is a surname it. She said that she had to say something at this point. I asked again, "When did the landlord come here?" Ingjie said, "She turned out to be just like you. Just a tenant. I guess I came here 7 or 8 years ago. She lived there for less than a year. I don't know how I heard about it." I sat the owner of this building. There was extreme doubt in his eyes. "Lean over and lower your voice. And yes, it seems like it's just a one-day affair. Whole landlord's whole family within a day. It's like the world has evaporated. It's gone." At this time, I suddenly felt a sharp gaze behind me. I'll turn back right away. I only saw the dark windows of the landlord's house on the first floor. Landlord Liang doesn't seem to be at home, but I always felt like behind a dark window, there was a pair of eyes staring at us. When I turned my head back, Ingjie continued, "Originally, the 6th floor lived with the landlord's family. The young landlord lives on the 5th floor." At this time, I interrupted Sister Ing, because I saw something black. It flowed from her nostrils. I fixed my eyes on it. Say to her, "Sister Ing, you're getting a nosebleed." Sister Ing subconsciously touched it. I saw blood sticking to my hands. She immediately took a tissue out and wiped it violently, but the blood kept coming out. "I don't want to stay here anymore." "Say, Sister Ing, I'll go first." Sister Ing looked at me while wiping. The bottom of his eyes was full of fear. The three of us went up the stairs to the 2nd floor. I saw an aunt drying clothes. When passing through the 3rd floor, I heard a phrase playing inside. I guess there's an old man living there. Back to the 5th floor again. Sister Ying's words were still in my ears just now. This used to be where the landlord Liang lived. There must be a lot of families in between. I couldn't help but glance at the 6th floor again. It's still pitch black. The sharp pain in my foot suddenly intensified a little. I couldn't help but grit my teeth. I decided, it's been after 11 o'clock tonight. I will go up again, put it all to an end, and then move out of this damn house forever. Nothing to do in the house that night. I watched TV once. Brother Yi and Lao Jiang asked me to sleep together in their room tonight. I said okay, but they were not told. I'm going to go up before I go to bed. I looked at the time on my phone. It's 9:30. Somehow, I suddenly wanted to call home. It was Mom who answered the phone. I told her about the latest developments, but it's all made up. Because nothing good has happened since I lived here. After hanging up the phone, I couldn't help but sit on the bed and cry. There was a feeling at this time. It's me who went up. Probably never get down again. But a 20-year-old man. It's a shame to cry. I quickly held back my tears. Look at the phone again. It's almost 10 o'clock. I want to do something I've always wanted to do as soon as possible. Then I went up without regrets. So I immediately limped and moved to the 4th floor. Descended a flight of stairs. I saw it on the balcony on the 4th floor. The two siblings, Shi and Shaolin, talked to landlord Liang again. At that time, I only had Kobayashi in my eyes. She was wearing a pink pajamas. Long wet hair draped over her shoulders. He was standing next to his brother. Landlord Liang saw me coming down. There was a kind of unhappiness in his eyes. Then he gave Shi and Kobayashi a lewd smile. Said in awkward Mandarin, "All right, that's it. I'll go first." Then he walked downstairs with his big belly. Shi and Kobayashi saw me come down. They just wanted to come and help me. I said no. I can't think of words. Let's just say I'm sorry last night. Playing too crazy. I'm sleeping. They all laughed. Never mind. Then they told me to go into their house and sit down. After entering, I tasted Kobayashi's coffee again. We were talking and laughing. In those half an hour spent at their house, Ashi sat at the piano and played a tune. Kobayashi and I sat on the couch and listened, holding a white coffee mug in his hand. I put all my worries behind. Feel incredibly comfortable. Ashi takes the pen. I gave it a thumbs up from the bottom of my heart. Then looked at the time. 10:50 a.m. So he reluctantly said that he was going up. Kobayashi walked out of the house with me. Walked to the stairs. There was only dim light around. I stopped abruptly. Kobayashi behind me also stopped. There was silence all around. So I asked with my back to her, "Kobayashi, do you have a boyfriend?" This is the question she asked me out of the blue. A bit caught off guard. No, I don't. I still had my back to her. My heart was beating very hard. Said what I've been trying to say for the past few days. "Kobayashi, I like you a lot." That was the first time I confessed to a girl. When I was cowardly. I spoke very quietly, but it was enough for her to hear. She was standing right behind me. Didn't say anything. I quickly explained nervously. "We didn't bring the girls up last night. We weren't drunk." I choked. I can't say it anymore. Crying like a mess. She walked up to me. I quickly turned my head away. I don't want her to see me crying. She straightened my head with her hands. Said to me with a smile, "You are a very honest person. Xiao Fan, I knew it the first time I saw you. You don't have to explain it to me. Do you know? But why are you always unhappy?" She asked, puzzled. My eyes seemed to be able to understand my feelings. All of a sudden, I became melancholy. I couldn't suppress my emotions any longer. His hands hugged her tightly, then asked her with tears in his eyes, "I would love to get out of here." She told me to stop talking. Then he hugged me back with his left hand. His right hand stroked my head. I felt an incomparable warmth. My fears, the restlessness and irritability all dissipated at this moment. And so it went on for a long, long time, until I stopped crying. Kobayashi helped me up a flight of stairs. Then I told her not to go up again. She didn't ask why, just standing there. Look at me worriedly. I glanced at her. I engraved her appearance at the moment in my mind. Then he turned around and went up to the 5th floor. After entering the house, I looked at my phone. It's already 11:30. Lao Jiang and the others were making beds on the floor of their rooms. Didn't notice me coming back. I took Master Liang out of my backpack, the long red rope that was given to me. Then he took a flashlight from Qin Yi, opened it for a while. The light is intense, plenty of shop. Then took advantage of the fact that Lao Jiang and the others didn't pay attention, and he walked out. A few seconds later, I was holding the red rope in my left hand. Hold the flashlight in your right hand. Stood in front of the iron gate leading to the 6th floor. Facing the darkness in front of you. I didn't have any fear at all. I can ignore the pain in my feet. I silently recited Kobayashi's name in my heart. I thought, just complete this trip. Tomorrow will be a new day. There is no fear, no worries. It's business as usual. For such a tomorrow, no matter how big the price is, I'm willing to give. I turned on the flashlight. The light dispelled the darkness in front of him. The iron gate appeared before my eyes again, and the chains on top. I put my flashlight down. The light is pointing ahead. It can shine on the dilapidated wall behind the gate. Then I started to get that red string. Tie one end of the rope to my hand. Just as I looked down, I saw it in the afterglow of my eyes. There was a dark shadow dangling behind the iron gate. I immediately looked ahead. There was still only the wall behind the door. Nothing. I quickly removed the lock from the chain. Again, the chains were rounded and circumvented. The sound of chains clattering iron gates. It's very crisp in the silence here. After the chain was cut off, I began to pull open the iron gates with a simple movement. The iron gate was pulled open. There was that extremely harsh sound of metal grinding on the side. Same as in the afternoon. The door was only halfway open and couldn't be opened. I picked up the other end of the red rope. Tie it to the door frame to the left of the iron gate. Then bend down. Make it a flashlight. Leaning over. Stepping into this eerie place again. By this time, I was completely surrounded by darkness. Out of the darkness is silence. It was as if there was an invisible wall surrounding me. Something will pop up on me at any moment. Flashlight somehow. The light is a bit unstable. It's bright and dark, but I'll be at peace with it. I turned my head and looked at the iron gate again. Borrow the light of a flashlight. I was surprised to find out. It turned out to be on the iron bar behind the iron gate. It's written things. Those were symbols I couldn't read. It's like a spell. I looked at the wall behind the door again. Disposed of some of the paint that has fallen off. I saw some regular but messy scars. I took a closer look. It was like a scratch on a human hand. 4 of a dozen are juxtaposed, deeply carved into the wall. There are a lot of cross-sliding strips. I couldn't help but take a step forward. Leave the cursed wall behind you. At this time, the flashlight is a little weird. Flashed a few times, but suddenly it came back normally. So I continued upstairs. There was so silence all around. When going upstairs, only the sound of my own footsteps. The pain in his left foot became more and more pronounced. My fighting spirit is getting weaker and weaker. I finally got to the balcony that I had only come to this afternoon. The light of the flashlight shone on the familiar flower pots. A gust of wind blew. The big tree downstairs rattled. I was shivering, but still walked towards the door. At this time, I finally got a clear picture of what the iron gate looked like. It has a different style than the one below. This door has a cat's eye. It may have once been gray, but now it's all on show. The whole one is red and black. Then I looked at the red rope tied to my hand. Not tense at all. There should be a long way to go. I figured out the key that had been in my pants all day, then inserted it into the perforation. This time I'm pretty neat. Twist it directly. Click. The door lock is unlocked. At this time, my heart suddenly beat extremely fast. It's like it's about to pop out. I wish it would open. I hope it doesn't open. What will be behind the door? What the hell is behind the door? I thought about Kobayashi's appearance. There was a little more courage. If I want to die, I will die. Then he let out a loud shout. Push your hand away from the lower door. Then immediately jumped a step back. I pushed the door open. I gasped for air. The flashlight in his hand was shaking. The light in front of me was flickering. Gradually, a musty stench hit me. The interior of the house unfolded before my eyes. I was stunned. What the hell is this place? Look at the reflection of the hand cushion on the inside of the room. I couldn't believe my eyes. The house was flooded. The water flooded to 2/3 of the height of the threshold. In the darkness is a layer of black. I'm really not going to go in, but it was clearly hinting that I was going in. I tried shouting a few times outside, but there was only an echo coming from inside, and a stench of mold and rot. The pain in my feet became more and more intense. My left foot hurt so much that I was on my knees. It seems to be some kind of urging. Die and die. It's better than being half dead like this. Thud. Step into that layer of water in one step. The feet are cold. Who quickly soaked my shoes. I continue to move a few small steps. Compared to the decay outside, there is a deathly festering here. The walls of the house are black and yellow all sides. Everything in the house was littered. Several chairs fell to the ground. A piece of wooden shelf wire has long since lost its legs. Fall to the ground outside. Only one dining table is still standing on the right side of the hall. There are also saucers on top, rice bowls and chopsticks. I hold my breath. Continue down the hall. I looked for a look at the ceiling. A large chandelier hung from the side of my head. It's all dust. At this point, I had a little doubt that I was dreaming. This kind of scenario can only be imagined in a dream. Just when I wanted to take a picture of the sound in the room, the flashlight flashed suddenly. Then it was sucked off right away. Meanwhile, the red rope in my hand tugged at me. The iron door behind him slammed shut. It's a suffocating pitch black. Fear crushed all my will. All sanity has come to naught. The legs are already limp. I can't walk anymore. I couldn't help but scream hysterically. But it was pitch black like a hand covering my mouth. No matter what you call it, I can't even shout through this dark cage. I quickly pulled my phone out of my belt. In a hurry, I pressed a button casually. Who knew that the phone was bright? A white face was right in front of me. There was nothing in that face. Only one nail was driven into the forehead. I screamed. Immediately poured it back into the water. My mind went blank. Keep shrinking back. That face was condescending. Keep closing in on me. Then my eyes went black. I don't know anything. Wait until I wake up again. I'm still in the dark. I was confused, as if it was just a nightmare. Followed by, the lights are on. I sat up, adapting to the bright light. In front of me in a trance. Suddenly, a figure passed by. I subconsciously shrank back again. It's already hit the wall. After a while, I got used to the light. What was in front of me slowly became clearer. I found out that I was still in my room on the 6th floor. But the room was completely different. There is no water on the ground. It was a very clean floor. Then I saw the man walk ahead of me again. I was taken aback, but it was seen that it was a very thin and tall man. His face was expressionless. Squatting to my left, a cabinet was opened. Then take out a toolbox. I stared at the man. I'm sure I haven't met him, but it was as if I didn't exist. He pulled a machine out of his toolbox. I don't know what it is. Then he took out another cardboard box. Take out a very long nail from inside. put it into that machine. Then a few more were installed. I finally know what that machine is. It was a nailing machine. And then, the bedroom door across from me opened. A pregnant woman walked out. After she saw the man, the mouth moved, but I couldn't hear the sound. That's when I hit myself in the ear. I found out that I really couldn't hear anything. It's a silent world. And the man stood up. There was still no expression on his face. She turned to the pregnant woman. I saw him hiding the nail machine behind him. I seem to have guessed what he's going to do. The moment he raised his hand, I hurriedly shouted, "Get up and go forward and try to stop him." But he still quickly pointed to his forehead. Pull the machine. A nail was stuck in his forehead and into his brain. The pregnant woman's head tilted back, but it didn't fall. He shook his head back again. The eyes are already rolling. The blood flowed in an instant, but he still staggered to his feet, refuses to fall. The man grabbed his hair with his left hand. With his right hand, he aimed a nail machine at his throat. The machine is constantly being pulled. He kept pulling the machine. The nails are still being pulled, until the pregnant woman was motionless. He stopped. Then the machine and the body of the pregnant woman were thrown down. It was a murder. A silent murder. The man didn't have the slightest superfluous movement. It's like it's been rehearsed many times. He pulled the pregnant woman by the hair. Pull his body towards the kitchen. I saw the face of a pregnant woman, a nail in the forehead, rolling his eyes. The neck is full of nails, constantly lying blood. A bloody tongue sticks out. The death was horrifying. I quickly stood up. Follow the man. Before I went in, I saw the wall clock that was still moving. It was exactly 3 o'clock. When I chased in, this man was holding a knife to me. I jumped back in fright. But he didn't seem to see me. Turned around and walked over. I saw the body of a pregnant woman lying in the toilet. The man walked over. Unwrapping the pregnant woman's dress reveals his round belly. And raised the knife. I didn't dare to keep looking. Hurriedly turned his face to other places. It's been a long time. I vaguely see it. The man's chopping action turned into a dove. And then there's the strip. In the end, he came out with something he didn't know what it was. I don't study human organs. I guess it's the placenta. Then I finally understood what it was all about. So he said, "All right, I get it. Don't show me anymore, please." And then gradually, what is in front of you is starting to blur. Then it turns black. There was that cold feeling on my feet again. The surrounding walls turned from snow white to black and yellow again. Finally, darkness enveloped me again. Somehow. At this point, I didn't feel scared at all. What just happened to me? It was the most amazing experience I have ever had in my life. I saw the white face again. Gradually, I could see his body clearly. He doesn't have a neck. He was wearing a dress. The clothes were covered with blood. Stand not far in front of me. Is this the ghost? I felt that he had no ill will towards me. He just wanted me to know the truth. But I really don't understand, because I don't know who that man is. Suddenly, he looked terrified. Then it was gone. I felt the light source shining at me behind me. I turned my head to look. It's the Liang landlord. His face was fierce, as if it was going to kill me. I saw him walking towards me with a black thorn in his hand. I haven't turned around yet, and he stabbed me in the back. Then my eyes went black, again unconscious. I woke up in the dark. He fell asleep again. Wake up again. Go back to sleep. I felt like I had died 1,000 times, and then it was reborn countless times. It's in this cycle after reincarnation. I only saw Kobayashi's face. The dim light shone on her face. Her eyes were full of sorrow. Then her face slowly blurred. Xiaofan, why are you always unhappy? I gradually woke up from this long dream. The words kept answering. The eyelids are heavy and heavy. I struggled to open my eyes slightly. A bright light stung my eyes. I want to block this light with my hand, but his hands are sore and weak. Can't move at all. I felt my mouth was dry. The stomach is empty. It seems that he doesn't even have the strength to hold up his eyelids. I continued to squint. Adapt to the light in front of you. Tears kept pouring out, but I'm still holding on. Gradually, the light became less glaring. I can see vaguely. The front is a flat surface. Then the plane slowly becomes clear. From one of the spouts above, I see. This plane is a ceiling. And I was lying on a bed. There is a shelf next to the bed on the left. A bottle of clear liquid hangs on it. A tube went to my left hand. Look at this strange ceiling. I gradually came to my senses. Here's where it is. Is it a hospital? I tried twisting my neck, but the stiff neck can't turn at all. I squinted my eyes and looked to the right. Only a wide window was seen. The pale blue blinds at the front were closed, but you can also see the bright sunshine outside. I tried to move, but only the eyes can move all over the body, fingers and toes. What the hell is going on? I felt that everything in front of me was very absurd. So I turned my head to the right with all my might. That's when I saw a man sitting on my right, bowed his head and fell asleep. It's Mom. I want to shout, but he couldn't shout. I'll clear my throat, and then shout. Tried a few times. Finally shouted a little voice. Mom woke up. As soon as they saw me, they immediately pounced on me. Touching my face, he said, "Wolfan, you've finally woken up." After saying that, he lay on me, crying bitterly. I don't understand why my mother is like this. I asked with difficulty. Here's where it is. The voice is hoarse and distorted. All 5 words are transposed. Mom looked at me and said, "Don't talk yet. Wait until I call the doctor." With that, he ran out. After a while, I heard hurried footsteps outside. Sounds like a couple of people. A male doctor with glasses appeared in front of me. He smiled at me. Take out a small flashlight. Bend down. Shine in my eyes. Then asked with a smile, "How do you feel? Is there anything that isn't?" I said my mouth was dry. The doctor called a female nurse behind him, poured a glass of water. She lifted my head, then took a small sip for me. The throat is not gone all at once. The doctor wrote something in his notebook. Then he asked again, "Do you feel better?" I nodded. She thought about it for a moment, then asked, "Do you remember why you ended up in the hospital?" I thought about it. I don't really know why I'm here. So he shook his head. She asked again, "Do you remember what happened most recently to the present?" I thought about it for a moment and then said, "I just came back from a trip to Hokkaido." He nodded. Asked again, "Did you know that? It's probably the day of the month." I replied, "It's probably August 10th. And then the summer vacation." I'm done. I saw that my mother's face suddenly became ugly. The doctor bit his upper lip. His eyes were lowered and he didn't look at me. Just nod your head in a few times. And then he wrote something in that notebook. Then he made a look. I walked to the door with my mother. I couldn't hear what the two of them were saying. I only saw the doctor keep talking. Mom covered her mouth with a tissue in her hand. Then he turned his eyes to look at me from time to time. The rest of the morning, they took a machine that I don't know what it was. I guess it's a massager. Placed under my legs. Massaged for more than 2 hours. I asked my mom what was going on. Mom didn't answer. Just touched my head. Tell me not to worry. I'll talk about it after I'm discharged from the hospital. Around 12 o'clock in the afternoon, the nurse helped me set up my bed. Sit me up. Drip, or something like that went away. My hands are now able to move freely. But my feet were still very numb. The nurse asked me again if I watched TV. I'm bored. So he nodded. After the TV is turned on, it was a rerun of entertainment. The hostess said, "Tomorrow night we have the National Championship of Supergirl. An exclusive interview with Shang. Please stay tuned to our program tomorrow night." I thought about it after reading it. A little confused. Recently, I saw in the newspaper that it was a regional lucky dog. How did the national champions come out so quickly? This is followed by advertising. At this time, my mother brought food. I found myself hungry. But then it turned out that those were just white porridge. I lowered my head and ate. I heard the opening music of the news on TV. I unconsciously glanced at the TV. Ears thump. The porridge in my mouth almost climbed out. The brain went blank. Today's date is displayed on the TV. October 9th, 2006. The porridge that surprised me was peeking out of the corners of my mouth. Mom saw me like this. Hurriedly wiped the corners of my mouth with a tissue. Then I put my hand on my combo and looked at her. I remember someone doing this to me as well, but I can't remember who. Mom looked at my dull eyes and said, "Xiaofan, don't be afraid. It's okay. The doctor said you just fell asleep. The brain is fine. I just can't wake up." I said excitedly, "Did I sleep like this for 2 months?" I couldn't suppress my unhappiness any longer. It was as if the world was deceiving me at the moment. The whole world is fooling me. Oh, just 35 days. You've been sleeping since the 5th of September. It's only been a few days since school started. Saying that, my mother started crying again. I saw her tired face. and eyes that were already red and swollen from crying. I couldn't have behaved so desperately anymore. It worries her. But the reality in front of you, it's so desperate. I want to change. I can think of that. I remember what happened recently. I just came back from a trip to Hokkaido. Mom said I had been sleeping since September 5th. What happened? I don't remember at all. The doctor later explained, this is selective amnesia. Oddly enough, I didn't get a serious blow to the head, but that's how it happened. That afternoon, Dad also came from the company. I was practicing walking in the hallway. I can't stand up my waist all the time. The foot joints are stiff. Looks like an old man. Dad saw me. Come and help me walk right away. His eyes were full of joy. He doesn't ask me how I feel. Just ask me about the girl who comes to see me often. Isn't it my girlfriend? Asked, what is the girl's name? She said her name was Siechenlin. I said I didn't know. I weighed myself. I used to weigh around 70 kilograms. But now it's only 59 kilograms. Can you imagine a 177 centimeters person? What does it look like to only 59 kilograms? Until I look in the mirror. See my skinny figure. Sunken and pale face. The hair is long and messy. Looks like those Japanese male stars who are neither male nor female. In the evening, I basically got back to normal. Can't wait to get out and check it out. The doctor told me to stay in the hospital for a few more days. But look at how fast I'm recovering. It means that there will be no problem with being discharged from the hospital tomorrow. He also reminded Mom and Dad, don't make me remember anything. It's not going to be good for me. It was almost time to go to bed that night. Dad said it was his turn to stay tonight. That's when I found out. They've all this month. Every morning my mom came to take care of me. Dad goes back to work. At night Mom comes home and sleeps. Dad stayed with me. But I'm already such a big person, and it's in such good shape. Let them all go back to rest. Dad still insisted on staying. It was the dead of night. Dad told a lot. My memory is completely blank. I said before school started, I want to rent a room somewhere with the people in the dormitory. Then on the night of September 4th, out of the blue, I called them to say they were safe. Then I got a call from the school the next morning. Said I was in the hospital. After they arrived, I just basically slept all the time. He said, the one who brought me to the hospital was a tall and handsome boy. It's called Ashi. Said it was downstairs from me. He sent me in at 4 o'clock. I waited in the hospital until 8 o'clock in the morning. They rushed over and left. Said it was to send something. The first week, there was always a girl who would come to see me from time to time. It's Siechenlin who I just said. But his face looked worse and worse. And then it didn't come. I came with a large group of people from my class to see me. 3 of them rented a house with me. They said they quit the rent. Sent me all my stuff. 2 of them were blue-eyed and red-eyed. Bruises. There is also one named Chinyi. Dad knew him. Came to stay with us before. He came to see me for a few days. And then I didn't come. During the National Day holiday. It was just a few days ago. Counselors from our college also came to see me. Tell me to go to him when I am ready. Daddy talked about something. I don't understand the reason at all. The mind is in a mess. Then Dad suddenly took out my phone and gave it to me. Said that the bowl of water on my phone was broken. It was the bowl that the man named C gave him. He took it to help me fix it a few days ago. Now it's fixed. I turned on my phone. It was found that there were dozens of text messages from Wado. Most of them are words of blessing from the class. Among them, Sheen also posted one. Brat, if it's a man, wake up quickly. Call me as soon as you wake up. I looked at Wei again to pick up the call. There is only one. It's also Sheen Yes. The show is September 5th. It's past 4 a.m. At this point I was tired. There's still a lot of messy information in my head that I can't process. I just want to call Chinyi tomorrow. Follow me and tell my dad. I'm going to sleep. My dad joked. Remember to wake up. My dad sat on the edge of my bed that night. I fell asleep with a lot of questions. Then I had a very spooky dream. Most are self-deception, but there are very few bathrooms. This is what Master Liang said. The dream I had that night was very weird. That is true. A white cat walked past me. It was brought to a white mouse. Then I ate it. After eating, the white cat turned into a very large white mouse. The white mouse took a few steps and brought a black mouse. After he ate the black mouse, turned into a black cat again. This dream came up several times after that. I didn't know what he meant at the time. When I really understood, but it was too late. I slept well that night. The next morning, I made a call to Chinyi. It was found that his phone was turned off. I made another call to the counselor. He heard the news that I woke up. There were no surprises. Just tell me when I'm going back to school. Just go and see him. I was discharged from the hospital that afternoon. I finally took off a white hospital gown. Change back into your own clothes. But the clothes don't fit anymore. After I was discharged from the hospital, I went to buy a few new clothes. Had a good meal with Mom and Dad. They and I spent the whole night with amnesia. Not a word. I looked at the bustling street. This is not the case in this world. Isn't it just 2 months? For a college student whose life is set in stone, I lost 2 months of memory. It's not a big deal. The next day, I can't wait to go back to school. I'm in a great mood. The first thing I do when I go back is to find a counselor. Counselor's office. In the Polytechnic building. I knocked on the door a few times and went in. The counselor, Mr. Yin, sat behind the desk. He recognized me at a glance. Say to me, Master Luo Fan, sit down. So I sat across from him, but don't know why. I felt a little unwell. Teacher Yin is actually a 25-year-old senior sister, but his skin is rougher. Looks like he's in his 40s, and he always likes to keep a straight face. It looks even older. I haven't started to speak yet, and he said, "You're going to keep coming to class, aren't you?" This question baffled me all at once. I nodded anyway. He saw me nodding. It seems a little unpleasant. Say, actually, I suggest you still be like your roommate. Take a break from school to relax. When he said the word suggestion, deliberately aggravated the tone. So much so that the word sounds like a request. I'm a little confused. What's wrong with my roommate? Sit, don't you know? All 4 of them took a leave of absence. I don't really know. Teacher, I don't remember anything about the last 2 months. I'll show you the case. He looked at my case carefully. Then he frowned. Look at me and say, I really don't understand. What the hell are you 5 doing? Rent a house. I can stay until 3 suspensions. Amnesia. Don't you think it's ridiculous? Wait a minute. You say 3 sabbatical. In amnesia. And what's wrong with it? He said, too much pressure to study. Something is mentally wrong. I asked, horrified. Who is it? Fat Teacher Yin knew that he had talked too much. Deliberately pull away from the topic. Someone else's business. The school will make proper arrangements. Let's talk about you. Are you sure you can read it yourself? I don't like him. Just say. Why not? I just forgot something. Missed classes in a month. If I try hard, I can still catch it back. Teacher Yin continued to look at me with a straight face. Looks like an old witch. Shaking his head, he said, I'm still not at ease with you. Do you know? The business of the 5 of you. It has already made the academy very uneasy both inside and outside. To put it mildly, if you're committing suicide or something, it's hard for us to do that. This woman talks a lot of nonsense, but I still suppressed my anger. Try to speak as calmly as possible. Teacher, I feel like I'm normal now. It's not up to you to decide whether it's normal or not. He interrupted me again, and he found himself a little louder. So he lowered his voice and said, I'll ask the school to arrange a psychiatrist. Give you a 1-month psychological evaluation. During a psychological evaluation, you go to class as usual. A month later, the doctor told me that you were fine. You're really normal. He pulled back his ugly face. An inviolable look. I really wanted to slap him. I would have thought, you can start a new life on your own. But find yourself. It's still about giving those 2 months. Dragging on the hind legs. I try calling. Give Chinyi the 4 of them. I want to get to the bottom of things. But all 4 are powered off. My classmates are talking about us. Everyone says the version. It's all imaginative. None of them can be fully believed. I was utterly hopeless. No one could tell me what had happened. No one can tell me what I've done. I don't even know where that rental is. The next day, the psychiatrist contacted me. He is a graduate student in the Department of Psychology at our school. The next few days, I live like a ghost. Ignore the people around you. Came home one night. Past the convenience store downstairs. I bought a pack of cigarettes and a dozen beers. Every night I get myself drunk. Once, he threw up in his room. I feel like a walking dead now. The soul is still lost at some point in the past. The worst thing is, I always dream every night after falling asleep. I dreamed that I was in a house that had been abandoned for many years. The house was flooded. I have a red rope tied to my left hand, holding a flashlight in his right hand. I dreamed that Fat Rome was on a street. Walk away with your back to me. Then it suddenly stopped, turned his head to look at me. I dreamed that I was by some staircase, hugging with a woman. And I couldn't see her face clearly, only to hear what he said to me. Xiao Fan, why are you always unhappy? I wake up in a dream every day. Then I found myself with tears all over my face and pillow. I had a hangover. Peel your hair in the bathroom. Look at his pale and haggard face. I hate this face so much. This is not at all the memory of me. The day of the meeting with the psychiatrist. I wanted to make a good impression on him. I shaved off my beard, which I hadn't shaved for days. The school had arranged an office for us. Instead, he asked me to meet at a cafe near the school. I don't know if I had a can of beer before I went. The moment he appeared in front of me, I was fascinated by his beauty. The first thing he said when he saw me was, "You've fallen a lot more than you look in the photo." So the so-called psychological evaluation that day, it has completely become a mutual teasing and temptation for the two of us. The following week, my phone kept going in and out of ambiguous text messages. These text messages are accompanied by cigarettes, wine, and the dreams that make me feel painful. Finally, after the next psychological evaluation, I accompanied him to the bar for one night. He was drunk. I drove his car, sent him home, and then there was a relationship. It's hard for a person to pull themselves together. It's easy to fall. All you need is a gentle push. The next step is very simple. And I'm not going to put my mistakes on the line. Blame anyone. Because you don't want to fall. No one in the world can make you fall. And you are going to fall. There are a lot of people in the world who are willing to stay with you. So from mid-October to mid-November, this month, I indulged in alcohol, tobacco, and women, running away from the memories I had to face. The night before the last psychological evaluation, I also lived in his house. The next afternoon, he reports directly to the counselor. Say I'm in a normal mental and physical state. That day, because he had to go back to the Zhuhai campus, so we decided to settle dinner right outside the North Gate. We walked down the street outside the North Gate. There are all kinds of restaurants along the way. Senior sister has always been very unbearable to these low-end restaurants, so he taught me to pick any one. When I walked to a Teochew restaurant, suddenly there was a very strange feeling. I always feel like I've been here, but I can't say when. So I chose this one. I sat down with my sister at a table outside the doorway. I stumbled upon a look down the street that I had walked by. I was surprised to find out this is the background of the Fat Glory dream. I looked at this street scene in a daze. Have I been here? Excuse me, what dishes do you order? A low schoolboy pulled me out of the pleadings. I quickly turned my head over. One has dark skin. The face is deep. A sturdy uncle walked over with the menu. He frowned. Those eyes were fixed on me. It was as if it could see through my soul. Who is this uncle? Have I seen him? I had dinner with my sister that night. It was very uncomfortable to eat. There weren't many people at the table, but the Taman on the serving ordered 3 dishes. It took an hour and a half to finish. Senior sister has been making a lot of noise. It made me upset too. I've been keeping an eye out for that uncle. I noticed that he had been staring at me all the time. There was real hostility in his eyes. So I looked at him with hostility. Senior sister ate a little. He said he was going to hurry. I haven't eaten enough, so he told me to keep eating. I ate and ate. I found that it was only 8 o'clock. But the store already looks like it's going to close. I'm the only one left eating. Several groups of guests went in, but the uncle shook his head a few times. Indicates that it will not be accepted. I'm eating alone. I'm embarrassed, so I went in and paid for it. The uncle was standing at the counter, staring at me all the time. Looks like they've been waiting for me for a long time. I walked up to him. It feels unnatural. Pay quickly, turn around and want to leave. But the moment I turned around, the uncle said as he counted the money, I think you've forgotten a lot of things. I stopped my body at once. The body was leaning away from him. So let's give up on ourselves. The tone of his sentence was impulsive. I turned my head to look at him. He continued to look at me with that fierce look. I think he's really annoying to me. Say, Uncle, you're sick. It's you who is sick. He suddenly pointed at me and yelled, it's you who have lost your memory. You're the one in trouble. It's also you who are irresponsible. I don't know why he knows so much, though, but his words had already me off. I raised my voice and said, I don't know what you're talking about. I'll be with you to the end. Uncle slapped the counter, said with a smile, Right, I just want to fight. I love to fight people with amnesia. With that, he walked out of the counter. His last words made me even angrier. I stepped forward and lifted my foot to kick it. Who knew that he reacted very quickly, rushed before I could kick it, knocked me to the ground in one fell swoop. I slammed to the floor. I saw a few pedestrians looking outside. I was ashamed and angry. Immediately stand up and raise your fist. At the moment when I twisted my waist and threw a punch, he slapped me hard in the face with an elbow. I turned around and fell to the ground again. Suddenly, the world was spinning. I can't tell the difference between southeast and northwest. But the part of my heart still supported me up. But I was dizzy. Fall over like ninepins. I can't even see where the uncle is. Suddenly, a thick hand rested tightly on my neck. I couldn't breathe right away. Hurriedly grabbed his hand with his hand. But his strength was too great. I can't break it. Just when I was choking my brain dizzy, Uncle whispered in my ear, You want to know what happened 2 months ago? Just sit down and listen to me. If you don't want to know, just me. With that, he let me go. I fell to the ground, knock and knock, lightheadedness. I just listened to my uncle's words. The anger has long since subsided. This uncle seems. It's not like someone who deliberately went against me. I took a few breaths. The picture in front of me finally stopped so panicked. The spectators on the road gradually dispersed. Uncle helped me up, pulled a stool, pushed me to the top. He picked up a cup, poured a glass of cold water. I thought he poured it for me. He splashed it in my face. I suddenly sobered up a lot. Then he poured another glass, handed it to me. I drank it all in one gulp. Finally calmed down. The uncle pulled up a stool, sit across from me, pointing at me. See you 2 months ago. You're still a man. Now you pee on. Take care of yourself. What has become of it? I felt a little uncomfortable when I heard this. Question, have you seen me? He smiled. Say I've never seen you. I've even seen your 4 brothers who rented a house with you. Then he described what the 4 men looked like. I really believe in him. I hurriedly asked, What the hell happened to us? I'm not done yet. He interrupted me, said that the fat boy was dead. The other 3 are going crazy. You've escaped a coma. This is what I later learned from one of Fei Rong's high school classmates. Fei Rong's parents helped him take a leave of absence. Soon after taking him home, there was one night. He rushed out of the house like a wind. His family couldn't catch up with him. He rushed to a train track not far from his home. Then applauded, laughing as he watched the train run over him. Of course, the school didn't announce it at all. Knowing that a person is crazy, it's much better than knowing he's dead. As for Chingy, he didn't come back until my senior year to continue his junior year. He was sluggish a lot. When he saw me, he always deliberately avoided me. It seems that I don't want to face something anymore. I learned later, he spent half a year in a psychiatric hospital during his sabbatical period. What happened to him and Fei Rong at the guest house that night, I'll never know in my life. What happened to them after they took a leave of absence, it's even more impossible to calculate. As for Lao Zhang and the first brother, until the time I graduated, none of them came back. There was no news either. It seems that there is less luck in the ferocity. Uncle finished speaking. Then he was brought from time he met us, until the night I was finally met. Tong Tong told me 1510, said for more than an hour. Of course, I heard that we were in a collision. The house is haunted, and I think it's funny. I grew up in a science-like environment. And I study physics in college. That is, science. And I'm about the gods and ghosts. They all believe nothing. But seeing the uncle's serious look, again, I had to believe a little. In short, it's just half believed. After speaking, the uncle frowned again, said with a cerebral appearance. After that night, you never came back. I knew it. You may have had an accident. Then I immediately fell seriously ill. I knew something was going to happen to you. The more I listened, the more confused I became. Just ask me why I have an accident, and you get sick. Uncle said, You remember the night before you went? I gave you a red rope in addition to that. Do you still have 2 hands on your shoulders? After saying that, he looked at me. Then he found that it was superfluous to ask. I'm sure I don't remember. He continued. That's when I attached most of my vitality to you. I've given you protection. If I hadn't done it, you're in a coma and have lost your memory. It's been in the face room for a long time. When he said the word vitality, I almost burst out laughing. This uncle is really talking more and more nonsense. Uncle saw that I didn't believe him. Just ask me, you are not often dreaming after waking up? He asked. I didn't feel like laughing at all, only staring and nodding. Isn't it often dreaming of yourself in a flooded house? My eyes widened. At this moment, suddenly felt that the uncle in front of him was very unusual. I hurriedly asked, how do you know? He stood up, walked into the room at the back of the store, took a very short red rope and came out, threw it in front of me, said earnestly, I was sick for about a month. I recuperated for a few days, so I went to the house. It was found that not many people were there. I was on an iron gate on the 5th floor. Find this rope. The rest of the part has been torn off. I can see the other end from this end. The other end is tied to your lost one, that part of the soul. You're still on the 6th floor in that part. That's why you have amnesia. Then at night you will dream that you were there. I could hear it. I can only understand half of his words. Then asked with confusion, you mean to say, I can recover my memory by retrieving that part? Uncle said to me with wide eyes, wrong. It's the other part that finds you. So what should I do? Do I really believe him? I'm skeptical. Is it the idea that I want to regain my memory? Confused my sanity. Uncle took a look. It turned out that it was 10 o'clock before I knew it. It was a strange night. It was raining heavily. The uncle looked at the heavy rain outside the store. I watched the sky for a while. Then he turned to me. Come with me there tonight. It was raining heavily. Occasionally, there were a few bolts of lightning. This uncle can be described as full of nonsense, although I was always skeptical of his words. But I could see his honesty in his eyes. And just got into a fight. He could have killed me without much effort. But he didn't. Now he says he's going to that rental room. What could he do worse to me? So I said yes. After 10 o'clock, the uncle went into the room and packed up a backpack and came out. I've been talking to my sister on the phone. The things we talk about are vulgar. After the uncle came out, I didn't even dare to say it out loud. Unexpectedly, my uncle snatched my phone away. I pressed the hang up button directly. When I reacted, he had dropped his phone on the table. I was very upset with what he was doing, but dare not say anything. Just looked at him dissatisfied. My uncle stood in front of me with his waist crossed. There was no anger on the face. It's disappointment. He shook his head and said, I don't know how long you've been obsessed with rain, but did you know it? How weak your young energy is now. The disappointment on his face quickly turned to sadness. I made up for it. I knew I'd see you again tonight. But I didn't expect you to become like this. I didn't want to take you there tonight. But our fate can only end tonight. I don't understand what my uncle said. Look at his sad face. I don't know what to say. The store was silent. The sound of rain coming from outside the door, washing over the silence of the moment. Uncle sighed. Said deeply, I want to be responsible for my past self. Take responsibility for your current self first. As he spoke, the uncle picked up his backpack, signaled that it's time for me to go. It was exactly 10:30. Uncle turned off the lights in the shop, shut the door. I lit a cigarette, see the pouring rain outside. A gust of wind hung raindrops on my face. It's a little tingling cold. After locking the door, Uncle threw me an umbrella, then hold the umbrella. Walk outside into the blurry rain curtain. I picked up my umbrella and followed. There was no one on the street. The shops are closed. I walked to the right of my uncle. The pace is unhurried. Uncle bowed his head, looked at my left foot, then he laughed a little. I took a puff of my cigarette, asked curiously, what are you laughing at? He didn't answer me, and so it went on. I walked for about 10 minutes. We walked into one. It seems to be a place in an urban village. It didn't take long to arrive. The house that the uncle said, but I really treat him. I don't remember it at all. Pick up the lights from the dimly lit alleys. I can see that. The outside of the house is paved with brownish red tiles. It's no different from the next few houses. I took my umbrella and looked at it. The rain was pouring down. There is a light on the roof. Red letters on a white background. The word guest room is written. A flash of lightning flashed in the night sky. Shiny whole house. I noticed. The windows upstairs were all dark holes. The whole building was dead silent. At this time, I was looking at my uncle. I was frightened by his appearance. His eyes widened. The mouth is flattened into an arched bridge. The door on the first floor of this building looked viciously. Then he said it silently. I don't know what the words are. Now that I think about it, it should be too much. And then the handle does not know when. A yellow talisman taken out. It was attached to the iron gate. I was about to ask what Uncle was doing. I haven't spoken yet. He pulled at my clothes and said, Come on. There isn't much time left. I turned my head to look at the sigil on the door. He was swaying in the wind and rain. We came to the stairs. The uncle took out 2 red candles. Then he called them on. He handed me one, and then said, Protect him. Don't let the fire go out. Follow me. He said so. I'm starting to get nervous, too. I hold the candle in my left hand. The right hand guards the flames. Follow the uncle up the stairs step by step. There are no lights in the stairwell, except for candlelight. It's pitch black. We are on this narrow stairway. Hurry up and go up. When you get to the 3rd floor, Uncle turned his head. The candlelight shone on his wrinkled face. He whispered to me, These 2 floors are still a bit popular. The latter ones are different. Look at the candlelight. Don't let him perish. With that, he motioned for me to follow him. Stairs from the 3rd floor to the 4th floor. We walked extremely slowly. Uncle didn't take a few steps. Just read the words. Draw something in the air in front of you with your fingers. The atmosphere here is getting more and more eerie. My heart was beating hard. All I could hear was the sound of rain and my own panting. In this scenario, even if I don't believe in those things, I had to get nervous. I finally made it to the 4th floor. A sense of déjà vu popped into my brain. Especially this stairwell, although it looks the same as downstairs, but it just gives me a different feeling. That dream occurred to me. A certain woman. I'm so sure. I used to hug her here. Who is she? Feed. Uncle called me. I quickly pulled my thoughts away. It turned out that she had already walked up another flight of stairs. She pointed to my candle. Say it out loud. Your fire is about to be extinguished. That's when I really came back to the mountains. I looked at the light of the candle. There was only a little bit of fire left, but I looked at him for a short time. He looked slowly again. I'm looking down at the firelight. Suddenly there was a feeling. In front of my right, there is a 3rd person. I was standing there motionless. The uncle lowered his voice again. Say to me, look at the fire. Focus. Don't look anywhere. Then walk up. My hands were shaking with fear. The fire was flickering constantly. Out of the corner of my eye, really saw that there was a person, just standing on the balcony on the 4th floor looking at me. By the light of the fire, I probably got his foot in the eye. It's a man's foot. Very skinny. Only skin and bones remain. The skin is bloodless. In candlelight, it's a little blue and purple. I just looked at his feet. The fire in his hand began to extinguish again. Uncle kept calling me. Ignore him. Watch the fire come up. I hurriedly looked at the firelight again. Slowly turned his back to him. There was a chill behind him. There is a hairy feeling on the back. I walked up a few stairs in a panic. Then I saw the uncle's hand. I caught it with one hand. Uncle pulled me up. I'm stupefied. My legs are almost weak. I gasped. His mind went blank, and he looked into the uncle's eyes. The uncle's eyes were bloodshot. Say to me, he wants you to save a girl. He's still here, but you have more important things to do now. Got it? I nodded quickly. At this time, he recognized his surroundings again. A blurry face came to my mind. Small faces. The name is the same as the voice that has been in my dreams countless times. Immediately flooded my world. I suddenly felt an inexplicable sense of courage in my heart. I don't know where this courage comes from, but it's very familiar. Uncle tugged at my clothes. Tell me to keep following him. I'm not scared at all. Since amnesia, I always felt like I wanted to come back here. I don't know until now. It turned out that I was going to save someone, but now I have to get my lost self back. Soon we were on the 5th floor. Uncle told me to stand here and not move. Then he jumped up the stairs to the 6th floor. Through the candlelight in his hand, I saw an iron chain wrapped around the gate of an iron gate. The chains were also locked. The uncle took out a small piece of red rope from his trouser belt, tied to the door frame of the gate. Then he walked down and said to me, Your lost soul is on the 6th floor. We can't go up. It seems that you will have to walk down on your own. With that, he walked to the door of the house on the 5th floor. I followed too. I was surprised to find out the door to the 5th floor was not closed, and hid it. The uncle's respectful hands merged. Bow 3 times in the direction of the door. Then take out an apple. I lit 3 sticks of incense. Stick incense on the apple. Put it at the door. Then he pushed the door open. I subconsciously took a step back. Don't dare to step forward. I'm scared to see those things. The uncle stuck his head out. Teach me to go in with a gesture. I dare to move forward. In front of me was a dark room. A flash of lightning flashed, lit up the room. The ground is a layer of reflection. I was surprised to find out the house was flooded with a very shallow layer of water. Uncle looked at me and said, "This is where you and your friends live. You really don't remember." He flipped the switch next to the door. The lights didn't turn on. Uncle wiped the beads of sweat from his forehead. The gate was locked. Hurriedly took out another talisman. Another mantra was recited. Pasted the talisman behind the door. Then he pulled me to the hall of the house. I don't know how long no one has been here. The windows were open for ventilation. Uncle sweated doubled. I don't know why he's in such a hurry. He placed the candle in his hand on the table. So I sat down with him. He told me to sit on a stool at the table. Then he squeezed his hands and feet to take out all the contents of his backpack. I saw a cloth with a lot of needles wrapped around it. There are also a lot of black bottles. It contains certain liquids. The uncle also gasped for breath. Looks like a rush. I couldn't help but ask him, "Uncle, why are you in such a hurry?" Just as I finished asking, the door was knocked by something. Bang! I screamed in fright. The uncle hurriedly looked back at the door. And then there was a second bang. I was so scared that my body was shaking. Uncle turned his head. Take out 2 needles. 3 bottles of potion were opened. Then insert 2 needles into the bottle. Dip a little potion in each of the 3 bottles. Outside the door, there was nothing but the sound of rain. There was also some kind of sound like a fingernail scraping a door. I gasped for air. Like I can't get out of here tonight. That's when it happened. A pair of stout hands rested on my shoulders. I felt an invisible force ignite within me. I looked at my uncle's face. He crouched down. A needle is held in each of the left and right hands. Hold my face in your hands. His eyes were full of tears. Then he asked me in a choked voice, "Brat, tell me, what is your name?" My mind went blank. Answer him. My name's Rovan. Uncle nodded. Tears have already slipped down. His face was full of remorse. If only my son hadn't died. He should be as old as you. You really look a lot like him. It's a lot like. I don't know what happened to his son though, but look at the sad father in front of him. Tears welled up in my eyes. Uncle looked me firmly in the eye. Said I wouldn't be able to get him last time. I won't lose him again this time. Promise me. There is only a stick of incense in time. You have to walk down. Don't die in there. I will protect you even if I die. Then, there was another violent thud on the other side of the door. I couldn't help but look at the door. But the uncle straightened my face again. Said to follow the red rope. No matter what happens, just follow the red rope. Got it. I couldn't understand her at all, but still nodding. Suddenly her hand let go of my face. Then I felt the 2 sons limp for a while. A heart-rending tingle. The sound of rain and the sound of banging on the door became more and more distant. The uncle's face also became blurry. And then there's a world of darkness and dead silence. I felt a light source shining at me behind me. I turned my head to look. It's the Liang landlord. His face was fierce, as if it was going to kill me. I saw a black thorn in my hand walking towards me. I haven't turned around yet, and he stabbed me in the back. Then my eyes went black. Again unconscious. I don't know how long it took. I gradually came to my senses. Landlord Liang's hideous face flashed in his mind. I felt cold all over my body. When I opened my eyes, I found my face soaked in water. Specifically, the whole person crawls in the water. I quickly propped myself up with my hands. Then wipe off the water from your face. Looked around. I'm still in this 6th floor house, soaking in water for so long. I didn't feel any suffocation or lack of oxygen. It's weird. I felt like I didn't even need to breathe at all. It was pitch black. I can't see my fingers. There was a beam of light in front of me. I saw it was the flashlight. It's soaking in water. I don't know when it lights up again. I picked up my flashlight. Then he stood up. The pain in my feet is gone. I can't help but sigh in my heart. Look at my left hand. I still have that red rope tied around my wrist. I suddenly felt that the landlord Liang behind me was still there. So he immediately turned around and took a flashlight. Nothing. There was only an open door and a red rope pulled by my left hand. I took a picture of the rotten room again. It's still like that. Nothing has changed. I sorted out my thoughts. I just saw the ghost here. I followed him and showed me the scene of my own murder. Then I came back to reality. Finally, there is the face of Landlord Liang. I secretly cursed Landlord Liang in my heart, although he was not the murderer of the pregnant woman. But she must have something to do with the murder. Just when my mind was in a state of confusion, behind him came a woman's grief cry. I shuddered. Goosebumps are rising on my body. I know who this woman is. I know she has no ill will towards me. I turned around slowly. The beam of the flashlight also moved. I saw it right there at the dinner table. There was a woman lying on it crying very desolately. I slowly walked towards her, cover her with the flashlight. But I see, she is not an entity. It's something that looks like it's translucent. Through her body, I can see that. The black and yellow wall behind her. Her hair was messy, still wearing that red dress. I want to talk to her, but I don't know if I can communicate with her. But don't ask tonight. I can't end it. What happened in the last few days? So I plucked up the courage to call her. Miss. The voice is trembling. She continued to cry, but she could be heard suppressed. Miss, do you have anything you want me to help you with? If so, let's talk about it. My voice is a little more normal, but it's still a slurry. She cried a few more times before stopping. Then he raised his head. Who knew that she lifted it like this? Instead, it scared me back a few steps. It was one of the scariest faces I've ever seen, compared to the face that just has no facial features. Now her facial features are revealed. Her eyes were two black holes. Some black water kept coming out of it. On her pale face, draw a conspicuous black mark. Her lips are gray. There was also black water flowing from the corners of his mouth, and her forehead, still with a nail in it. The location of the nail on the neck. There is also a constant flow of black water. She looks horrible. I didn't dare look at it at all. Haven't you gone back yet? She actually spoke. Pure Cantonese is spoken. The sound is ethereal. After saying that, she made a regurgitated feeling. Then bending over is vomiting. The spit out is also black water. I saw that she had finished throwing up. Let's just say I've only been here for a short time. She straightened her waist, and then said, You've always been here. Didn't walk through. I don't know what he means. So he said, Who are you? Who's going to kill you? My name is Chun Ping. The person who killed me was my husband. His name is He Wei Quan. After saying that, I saw black water flow from his eyes again. Then he began to cry again. I remembered what Sister Ing said earlier. I guess that these two should be the former landlord and his wife. So I asked, Why did he kill you? He immediately stopped crying, said angrily, It wasn't he who really killed me. It was the thing that was attached to him. I suspect I misheard. Just ask, what did you say? A few months before I died, he went to Nanyang with his friends to do business. That's what got into that thing. When I came back, I was a different person. Recite mantras all day long. I knew then that my husband was dead. The one who came back was definitely not my husband. But unexpectedly, he would have killed me for the baby in my womb. I suspect the ghost has gone mad. I continued to ask, what does he want your child to do? He wants to raise ghosts. He took my daughter and raised her as a ghost. He was furious. There was extreme hatred in his voice. What is it called, raising ghosts? It's the first time I've heard this word. I asked again, so what the hell is he? I don't know. He said he was a god, has lived for tens of thousands of years. He also said that he could live forever. He relied on being negative on others, and then eat other people's souls. He word for word, make it clear. At the same time, there was a deep fear in the words. But I know his secrets. He's going to rely on a ghost. Pull your soul out of your old body, then put it in the new body. So he had to raise a ghost. I can't imagine what that thing is. But a ghost. How can you lie to me? I'm getting more and more confused. So I asked, does Landlord Liang have anything to do with this? Liang Chunhua is his next body. He wanted to take your body that night. But there is a vitality that protects you. He can only pull out a portion of your soul. With that, he pointed pale to the room behind me. The bodies of me and my husband. I'm still lying in a room over there. My husband's soul has been eaten by him. I'm not lucky. He didn't eat me. Just trapped me here. I'm really better dead now. I thought about his intentions. Just ask, do you want me to help you destroy that thing? He sneered desperately. Say, don't talk about you. The master downstairs couldn't kill him. I don't understand what he said. Keep asking. So what do you want me to do for you? I just want you to find someone to come up, move my and my husband's bodies out, so I'm satisfied. There was a pleading in his voice. I was about to nod. That's when it happened. A man's roar was heard. Luo Fan hurried down. I couldn't hold it anymore. I was taken aback, hurriedly swept around with a flashlight, but it was just me and the woman in the room. The man was roaring again. Follow the red voice. Hurry down. His voice was extremely distant. It was painful to scream. But I can easily fill my world with life. The woman said to me, go down. You've been here for over 2 months. I was driven crazy by her words. What? How did I faint for 2 months? She said, you're just a soul. Your flesh is downstairs. The other part of the soul is also downstairs. With that, the woman stood up and walked towards me. I was so frightened by her appearance that I didn't dare to move. I just felt one of her hands behind my back, then give it a big push. I flew lightly over the gate, landed on the balcony, but I didn't feel any pain. My mind was in a state of confusion. It is not possible to organize any leads, but now is not the time to organize the leads. Maybe I've gone crazy myself. I ran down the 6th floor along the red rope. See the iron gate ahead. It's half as open as when I came up. There are some reddish symbols on the other half. I leaned through the iron gate. There was a high temperature that passed by me. Just as I walked through the iron gate, the door clicked shut. The red rope on his hand is also gone. Only a small piece of the iron door frame was tied there. A bolt of lightning flashed behind me. I turned around. I saw that it was pouring rain. The weather was completely different from what I saw on the 6th floor. I also heard a man scream of pain, coming from a room on the 5th floor. I immediately ran inside. It was pitch black inside. When I got to the hall, the sight in front of me was unforgettable. I saw landlord Liang lying on the ground as if he was dead. There was a man kneeling. Put your hands on the shoulders of the other man. There was also a little girl with no clothes on. Take another man with no clothes on, stuffed into the kneeling man. I had no idea what kind of ritual it was, but I walked in and took a look. I recognized the kneeling man. It's Master Liang. Master Liang's face contorted in pain. His face was covered with sweat. He yelled at me when he saw me. Hurry up and sit down on the stool. Back to the flesh. I looked at the man who was seated. Through his long hair, see the face of his handhole. That's when I recognized. That man was myself. Seeing Master Liang's painful face, I didn't think about it that much. I immediately walked up. Sit on a stool. A lot of information flashed through my head. Qingyi, Lao Jiang, Brother Yi, Fei Rong, Axi, Master Liang, and Xiaolin. All the memories came together at once. I finally figured it out. I opened my eyes. Master Liang's face appeared in front of me. His hands on my shoulders were shaking. The expression was extremely painful. I looked at Master Liang, thinking about everything he did for me. Tears immediately blurred my vision. I put my hand on his arm. Choked up. Master Liang, I hurt you. I just come down early. Master Liang used his trembling hands. Cover my mouth. That's how I should be. Maybe it would be better that way. After speaking, he pulled out 2 needles from my temples with his hands. Then he stood up. Walk over to the lying Liang landlord. Extremely uncoordinated body movements. The muscles of the whole body are tense. It's like taking a step. It's all very hard. I walked over to Liang landlord looks. It should be dead. Right now. Master Liang squatted down. Hold up the hand holding the needle and insert it down. 2 needles were inserted into the forehead of the landlord Liang. Look at the blood coming out of your head. My eyes widened with fright. Hurriedly took Master Liang's hand and said, Master Liang, what are you doing? People will think that you killed him. Master Liang turned his head to look at me. Both green tendons protruded from the painful temples. Said with all his strength, that's what I'm hoping for. I couldn't understand what he was doing and saying at all. She continued in a trembling voice. She's already in me, devouring my soul. Soon I'll be controlled by her too. Hear this. I've cried into tears. What the female ghost said was true, but it's too late now. She is an evil god on the Malaysian side. A notorious evil god. Unexpectedly, someone actually provoked her here. Master Liang's eyes were full of despair. I will soon lose my mind. I will forget my dead wife. Forget my dead son. Forget about you. Forget what kind of person you are. And then become a no-nonsense. It will only kill the demons of the common people. I cried and shook my head violently. I couldn't believe Master Liang's words. I can only keep choking up. There must be a way. You're sure there's a way? Said me desperately. Put your head on Master Liang's arm. I don't want to face all this in front of me. Unwilling to lose this many times. Uncle who saved me from danger. Master Liang with his other hand, touching the nape of my neck. The hand was trembling though, but it still gives me a warm feeling. The girl you want to save is on the first floor. She planted security trees. You promise me. If you like her, don't care what happened to her. And then take good care of her for the rest of her life. I looked up, looking at Master Liang's face. Faced with a man's commitment to a man, I nodded firmly. Master Liang stood up at this moment. Walked back to the table. Take a pack out of her backpack. Something with some powder in it. She put the bag in my hand. Said weakly, blow it in her face with these things. And he regained his senses. Master Liang said this. His face suddenly twisted. Head bobbing from side to side a few times. The expression is extremely painful. Eventually, his face became hideous and terrifying. I haven't reacted yet. He suddenly put two hands around my neck. I felt my legs off the ground. I can't breathe anymore. Hands on his arms. But there was no way to pull away his strong arms. It was a stalemate for about 10 seconds. Master Liang yelled. Hands suddenly loosened. I slammed to the ground, looking at this demon in front of me, who was completely unfamiliar to me. Master Liang picked up the remaining needles on the table. Then he thrust a bundle of needles into his heart. Blood immediately stained his clothes red. I wanted to rush over and stop him, but he rushed first, grabbed me by the collar and pulled me up, pushed me towards the door. He said in a hoarse voice as he pushed, promise me to forget what happened here. Forget me as a person. Get out of here. Go to the police. And then don't come back. I haven't understood him yet. He pushed him out of the room, hit the balcony hard. I looked at Master Liang. A bolt of lightning streaked across the sky, illuminate him. He was watching me too, with tears in his eyes. There was a barely smiling smile on his face. Then he slammed the door shut with his hand. That's it. I don't know the name of the uncle yet. I haven't thanked Uncle properly. This rainy night, it became a silent goodbye between me and him. I sat on the floor gasping for air. Tears have long since flowed. I was thinking about that promise I made with my uncle. If there really is an evil god in this world, then I believe it too. There will be arrangements in the world. So, Kobayashi. I mustered the last courage. Rushed down the first floor. Seeing the door of the house of the landlord of Liang open. The talisman on the door was torn open. Only half of it is stuck on it. Kobayashi was inside. It's been 2 months. She didn't die. I have already suffered a lot. I cursed myself in my heart that I was useless. At the same time accompanied by deep anger. I pushed the door open. Turn on the lights. The room for the two landlords is almost the same as the one above. It's just 2 bedrooms. I walked down the hall. Nothing is the same here. I picked up the phone in the lobby. Called the police. Then put the microphone next to the phone. The doors to both bedrooms are closed. I noticed, under the door of the bedroom closest to me, a red light was emitted. Just as I expected, the door was locked. I kicked the door open. I think back to this bedroom now. It's a South Seas witchcraft laboratory. The light in the bedroom was red, and there were several high shelves in it, densely packed with all kinds of black bottles, and there were 7 or 8 large vats on the ground. God knows what was inside. And in one corner of the bedroom there was something that resembled an altar, with a lot of white sails hanging on it, and an urn in the center, and an incense burner in front of the urn, and I had no interest in these things, so I turned to look at the other bedroom, and the door was kicked open by me, and it was pitch black inside, and my heart was beating very fast. If you see that Shaolin has been greatly hurt, I really don't know how to deal with her. I turned on the light. A white painted body lying on the bed. It's Kobayashi. She was sleeping naked in bed. From her undulating lower abdomen, I could tell she wasn't dead. My tears flowed down my face. The anger in my heart quickly turned into endless self-blame. I walked over with blank eyes. Then sit on the bed. Woke up Kobayashi with his hand. Kobayashi opened his eyes. Smile at me. Hollow eyes. She sat up. The smile seemed to be as stiff as it was on his face. She took my hand with her hand, then put my hand on her breasts. That's when I came to my senses, shook off her hand with a thud, hurriedly retreated 2 meters away from her. This is not Kobayashi. Definitely not. I remembered what Master Liang had just said. What security trees did she plant? I remembered the bag of powder. I quickly pulled the packet of powder out of my belt. Then pour a little on the palm of your hand. I approached Kobayashi again. She saw me approaching. I want to come over and kiss me. I immediately put the powder on the palm of my hand. Blow into her face. Shaolin was expressionless. Then he passed out in bed. I helped her up with my hand. Gently brushed away the loose hair on her face. She said something in her sleep. Most of it has to do with me. My tears were dripping down her face. She seemed to be coming to her senses. When she opened her eyes and saw me, she had a look of surprise on her face, then said with a smile, Xiaofan, you're awake. I held back my tears, nodding. I went to the hospital the other day. You're still unconscious. I'm still worried. He was very weak. It's hard to speak. So I hugged him tightly, shut his unfinished words with his mouth. The sound of rain outside slowly dissipated. Only the silence of the night remains. I helped Kobayashi put on his pajamas that he had placed at the end of the bed. Then he left the house with him in his arms. Walking on the wet road. Before you know it, you're gone. I turned my head, took a look at the nightmare building. Under the cover of night, it's even more eerie. Accompanied by the sound of sirens in the distance behind him, Kobayashi and I left here forever.